Hello, 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 check, hello.
বন্দে তোমায় নিরঞ্জন নররূপধার নিরঞ্জন নররূপধার নির্গুণ গুণময় মোচন আঘ দূষণ জগ ভূষণ চিদ্ঘান কায় জ্ঞান জান বিমল নয়ন জ্ঞান জান বিমল নয়ন বীক্ষণে মোহ যায় ভাষার ভাব সাগর চির উন্মাদ প্রেম পাথার ভক্তার জান যুগল চরণ ভক্তার জান যুগল চরণ তারণ ভাব পার রিম্ভিত যুগ ঈশ্বর জগ ঈশ্বর যোগ সহায় নিরধান সমাহিত মান নিরধান সমাহিত মান নিরখে তব কৃপা ভঞ্জনম দুঃখ গঞ্জন করুণাঘন কর্ম কঠ প্রাণার পান জগত তারণ প্রাণার পান জগত তারণ কৃন্দন কলে বঞ্চন কাম কাঞ্চন তে নিন্দিতম ইন্দ্রিয় রাগ ত্যাগেশ্বর হে বার বার ত্যাগে সারা হে নার বার দেহ পাদে অনুরাগ নির্ভয় গাত সংশয় দৃঢ় নিশ্চয় মানস বান নিষ্কারণ ভকত শরণ নিষ্কারণ ভকত শরণ ত্যাজি জাতি কুল মান সম্পদ তব শ্রীপদ ভাব পুষ্পদ বারি যথায় প্রেমার পান সম দর্শন প্রেমার পান সম দর্শন জগ জান দুঃখ যায় সম্পদ তব শ্রীপদ ভাব পুষ্পদ বারি যায় প্রেমার পান সমদর্শন প্রেমার পান সমদর্শন জগ জন দুঃখ যায় নমো নমো প্রভু বাক মনাতে নমো নমো প্রভু বাক মনাতে মন वचन एकाधार प्रभु मन वचन एकाधार जो तेरा जाते ओ जल रे दिकंदर जो तेरा जाते ओ जल रे दिकंदर तुमी तम भंजनहार प्रभु तुमी तम भंजनहार नमो नमो प्रभु बाक मनाते नमो नमो प्रभु बाक मनाते मन वचन एकाधार प्रभु मन वचन एकाधार जो तेरा जाते ओ जल रे दिकंदर जो तेरा जाते ओ जल रे दिकंदर तुमी तम भंजनहार प्रभु तुमी तम भंजनहार दे 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 लंग रंग भंग बाजे अंग संग मृदंग दे 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 लंग रंग भंग बाजे अंग संग मृदंग गाइছে ছন্দ বা কথা বৃন্দ আরতি তোমার গাইছে ছন্দ বা কথা বৃন্দ আরতি তোমার জয় জয় আরতি তোমার হর হর আরতি তোমার শিব শিব আরতি তোমার খণ্ডন ভাব বন্ধন জগ বন্দন বন্দিত মায় জয় শ্রী গুরু মহারাজ কি জয়। ॐ ह्रीं ऋतं तमचलो गुणजित् गुणेभ्यः नाक्तं तेवां सकरुणां तव पादपद्मं मोहाङ्कुशं बहुकृतं न भजे जतोऽहं तस्मात्तमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो भक्तिर्भगश्च भजनं भवभेदकारे गच्छन्तलं सुविपुलं गमनायुतं वक्रोद्धृतोऽपि हृदये न मे भाति किञ्चित् तस्मात्तमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो तेजस्तरन्ति तरसा तयि तृप्ततृष्णा रागे कृते ऋतपथे तयि रामकृष्णे मर्तामृतं तव पदं मरणोर्विनाशं तस्मात्तमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो कृत्यं करोति कलुषं कुहकान्तकारि स्नान्तं शिवं सुविमलं तव नामो नाथ यस्मादहं त्वशरणो जगदेकगम्यं तस्मात्तमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ॐ नमो श्रीभगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमो श्रीभगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमो श्रीभगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ सर्वमङ्गल मङ्गले शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरणे त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। सृष्टिस्थिति विनाशानां शक्तिभूते सनातने गुणाश्राये गुणमये नारायणे नमोस्तुते शरणागत दीनार्त परित्राण परायणे सर्वस्यार्थे हरे देवी नारायणी नमोस्तुते जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते। जय महामाई की जय जय भगवान श्री राम कृष्ण देव की जय जय स्वामी जी महाराज जी की जय जय भगवान जीसस क्राइस्ट देव की जय।
ठीक है, हेलो चेक। ओम नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरे सच्चित सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। So happy Christmas everybody. So today we will start the next lecture of these Jnana Yoga lectures of Vivekananda. Lecture is called The Real Nature of Man. And the entire content of this lecture is encapsulated by this word real. And the whole point of this lecture is to inquire into the meaning of this word real. What do we really mean when we say that something is real to us? And typically, this is a point that we do not bother to inquire into. And an investigation of this essentially leads to our asking ourselves the question, what is it that is the criterion for reality? When we see something or experience something, what is it about that particular sense experience or subjective experience that makes it feel real to us? And this is really what one is going to proceed towards and finally determine a certain criterion. Okay. So let's start. Great is the tenacity with which man clings to the senses. Yet, however substantial he may think the external world in which he lives and moves, there comes a time in the lives of individuals and of races when involuntarily they ask, is this real? To the person who never finds a moment to question the credentials of his senses, whose every moment is occupied with some sort of sense enjoyment, even to him death comes, and he also is compelled to ask, is this real? Religion begins with this question and ends with its answer. Even in the remote past, where recorded history cannot help us, in the mysterious light of mythology, back in the dim twilight of civilization, we find the same question was asked. What becomes of this? What is real? This is the crucial question. What is real? What becomes of all this, of all our experience, our entire external world, conditioned by our senses as perceptions and then inferences that we draw on them, begins with this presupposition that what we see around us is real. And we never bother to ask ourselves, what does it mean for this to be real? Let's try to find a common sense answer to this. And from this common sense answer, we'll try to proceed to its logical limit and determine the criteria which say what is it about our experiences that say that something or the other is real and something else is not. So when we live in various places, and the houses we live in or the roads we travel along, all this around us, this world, the trees, etc., all of them convey to us a certain sense of reality. Okay, so this house we live in or these trees we pass by on our way, they are real. What does that mean? Now, contrast that with another experience. Suppose some people go to see a film, and then there is something going on in the screen. Even if the film is very absorbing, not for a moment do you have the conviction that anything that is going on in the screen is real. It's a story, and you have allowed yourself a certain suspension of disbelief so that you can enjoy that aesthetic experience. Same thing for music. What exactly is real about it? Well, the subjective experience is real because it happens to a real person. But the events that happen on the screen, the events in stories, does anybody regard them as real? No. Why then do we regard our day-to-day experiences as real and something that is going on in a movie as unreal? What is it that decides? What is it in us that tells us, no, this stuff that's going on around us in the world is real and something that's happening in a movie is unreal? Question 1. Second, suppose somebody comes and tells us something that so and so has happened, such and such a thing has happened in such and such a place, about an event. Now, if we believe this person, we say that what he is saying is true. What does that mean? What is being talked about is real. If we don't believe that person, then we say no, what he is saying is possibly true but maybe untrue. It needs further verification. If the person has been lying, we finally conclude that no, this is untrue, therefore what was said was unreal. What is it again about that particular experience, whether somebody is saying something that is true or false? How do we determine that? How do we, this question of what is real is intimately connected to our ability to determine whether something is true or false. So reality is intrinsically connected to truth. But then this becomes an intricate philosophical problem. How do we determine whether something is true or not? What is the criterion, the subjective human criterion that determines whether something is true or false? And then there are various ways of determining which go on in various philosophies. So, for example, in this particular school of thought, Vedanta, there is these 6 so-called pramanas. Pramanas means Prama means correct knowledge. So for example, these are pratyaksha, which is perception, inference, hypotheses, which are then verified, etc., etc. And then one part of it is also authentic evidence given by some people. So, for example, I don't know how many of us have actually experimented to test electrons, but most of us really know that, yeah, these things do exist. What does that mean? It means essentially that there is some kind of a theory built up, and people who have no reason to lie, people who are committed to truth, have told us that these things happen. So, we do believe people who are dependable. So, these are various sources of evidence which collected together determine for us whether we shall believe in something or not believe in something. So, this is a question, this is sort of the criterion of what is true, and similarly about our experience. We had asked this question just some time back. What is it in that experience that determines whether this is real or not? And Vivekananda here is offering the one experience which challenges our common sense view of so-called reality. And he said it pretty eloquently. To the person who never finds a moment to question the credentials of his senses. So why is this our common sense view of reality? We have essentially assumed, without challenging, without questioning, what we perceive through our senses is real. In a certain sense, again, this is evolutionarily hardwired into us. It's a fact that the two most active sense organs that we have, namely the eyes and the ears, they respond to two kinds of radiation. The eye responds to light, the ear responds to the sound. And these are really the sort of frequencies, I mean the frequencies where the most amount of information comes onto the earth, typically from the sun, is really in these two bands. Yeah? So our senses have somehow developed during the course of evolution to respond to bands where the largest amount of information is carried. Fine. Now the question is that real? And what is the... So if we start asking questions of our senses themselves, say asking questions of our eyesight, asking questions of our hearing. When I see something, is it real? A. B. When I hear something, is that real? This is really the question. Essentially asking the senses to present their credentials. You tell us that, you're basically telling our eyes and ears, you tell us that something or the other is true, something or the other is real. What do you have to say in your defense? In other words, why are you saying, and nobody asks, we typically do not ask this question of our eyes or ears, why are we assuming that what our eyes tell us is true, what our ears tell us is true? And then the answer starts evolving. Once we start asking this question, we start formulating answers. So, for example, if the house that we live in, if this temple that we are in now, if that constantly changed form, if the walls started moving here and there, and the shape was different every moment, or say every day, wouldn't that be something very similar to a film? To our experience of a film? Possibly yes. Then would we be granting it the same kind of reality that we grant it today? Perhaps not. So then one criterion from this kind of thought experiment that we can deduce is essentially we associate truth or reality to permanence of experience. That which is permanent is thought of as real. Now, if we take permanence as the criterion for reality, then we'll be asking ourselves automatically, if this is our criterion for reality in the world around us, then we'll be led to asking the same question about ourselves. What is it about our existence that is permanent? There was a question in the live chat last time that we are forced to think of everything through concepts, through our senses, and these are limited. So how do we conceive of the infinite? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It is true that we think of various things as finite. This table as some limited object, this microphone as some limited object. But at the same time, do we not instinctively, very naively, think of the sky around us as something that is infinite, that is boundless? Once we start conceptually understanding, well, the sky is not exactly what it looks like, but even then, isn't there something universal that we are questing after, that we are seeking for, that we are searching out? The entire quest for scientific truth in anything, and all our medicine rests on that, our health rests on that, essentially is trying to find facts which are not conditioned by personal prejudices. This is again another criterion for truth. it can withstand any amount of enquiry, challenge. So, coming back, so this is typically applied in the external world. There's a statement by Russell which was pretty cryptic and somewhat amusing. I'm paraphrasing. Naive realism, which means things as they are as they are, leads us to the study of physics. What exactly are the constituent particles or elements of matter, independent of our personal predilections, our personal prejudices? And then it leads, and then physics tells us things are not as they seem to us in terms of our naive perceptions. And then he says, so naive realism leads us to physics. Naive realism, the view that things are as they are, leads us to physics, which tells us things are not as they are. Hence, naive realism, if true, is false. Therefore, it is false. So, which means, so this is some kind of logical deduction, somewhat amusing thing that Russell had done. Essentially, it basically says that the evidence that is given to us by our senses cannot withstand enquiry. Yeah? And this is true. I mean, it's essentially, even if you look at the world purely in terms of material constituents, they lead us to a certain view of reality which is in conflict with our naive sense. Why is that so? Because we as a subject interact with this, and we can only perceive things at a certain level of haziness, lack of clarity. Now, how to gain clarity? How to gain clarity? And as we said, the criterion essentially is a certain permanence. This is true in terms of sense reality. If the house changed, then we would not grant it the same level of reality that we give today. 2, a certain piece of knowledge, which is a subjective human endeavor. If it constantly was in flux, and if it could not withstand the test of enquiry, we would regard it as untrue and therefore unreal. So, 2 criteria are, these are 2 sort of natural criteria in terms of our perceptions and in terms of what we say is true, come up. One is a certain measure of permanence. The second, the ability to withstand enquiry. Now, once we have accepted this, now start applying these same criteria to our subjective existence. Same scientific procedure that we apply to the external world, now applied to the individual subject. First, what we say, what is it really that is universal, that is true, that is permanent about our individual existence? And the answer has to be that this adjective individual has to be removed from it. Why? Because whether we like it or not, each of us who are embodied beings has to die. So my existence, if it is in terms of this body and mind, cannot be something that is permanent. What is then? What is it that is permanent then? Well, again, let us take a clue from what we regard as relatively more permanent in terms of our experience. Well, this universe in which we live does tell us that it is permanent. Whether we are there to perceive it or not, it's there and it's going to go on. It was there before we appeared on the scene, before we as a species, before we as a human species appeared on the scene, And it will be there long after the human species is dead and gone. Certainly long after each one of us as individuals are dead and gone. So what exactly is it about the universe that confers to us this sense of permanence, or at least relatively long? It's essentially this ability to withstand onslaughts of time. This enquiry that brings us again to the notion of time. But since we are interested in subjective enquiry, what is it in us subjectively that tells us that something is a past event, it was there, it's not there now, hence impermanent, hence not truly real? What is it in us that gives us a sense of time? How does time emerge in our consciousness? These are the fundamental questions that appear. And for this, we need to understand how our mind acts and how we can be aware of the mind, and the difference between two mental events and its succession is what gives rise in our consciousness to these fundamental ideas of this is what time is, this is what the flow of time looks like. Here we are trying to analyze time from a purely subjective standpoint. So, and what is it that makes it an enquiry that's worth doing? Essentially, can we conceive of our own death? What exactly is it? It's a mystery that has, here Vivekananda says that it's a question that goes back even in the twilight of mythology. And are we, most of us, any the more knowledgeable for so many thousand years having passed? It's not something that is limited even to the human species. Elephants have been found, wild elephants, when they know they are about to die, there are some places where they go and they shed their body. And when the herd later comes along, they find these bones of the elephants that have died, and there's a certain kind of custom where they hold these bones in their trunks, etc., etc. Elephants are typically supposed to be intelligent animals. Yeah. So there is this sense of mystery about death, which affects animals, which affects human beings. Certainly thousands of years back, when we used to try to construct stories to try to explain this mystery, it is something that intrigues us today. Much of medical science is really aimed at increasing human longevity. The 20th century stands as something where human longevity has been extended more than anything else. Just this year, the person who got the Nobel Prize in biology has effected a fundamental change in the way we handle cancer. What do all these presuppose? That our only means of knowledge is through these limited means that we have available, namely our senses. But can we extract from all this experience something that is permanent? Or is it really that everything is impermanent? And the answer to that fundamental question really is both yes and no. If we have to condition ourselves, if we have to assume that all that is there is extracted in terms of our sense experience and mental experience, then we immediately conclude that all of this is impermanent. But who is perceiving all this impermanence? Now that's the question that we need to ask. So, that which is not limited in our being, that which does not come into existence or that which lends a notion of reality to everything, that part of our being is not something that is conditioned by something that is individualized. Just as if you look at the material that is comprising every individual body, so we are built out of bones, etc., etc., bones, flesh, etc., etc. If you try to analyze it further, this is going to decompose into some bunch of elements. Now, are these elements themselves permanent? Quite so, they are. But then, if one has this kind of resolution into constituent particles, then the atoms that comprise your body and my body and somebody else's body, is there any real difference? Carbon atom that's there in somebody else and in me, fundamentally they are not different. Okay, maybe they have different isotopes, so you decompose further till you get fundamental particles of matter. And then there is nothing that distinguishes an electron in you from an electron in me, an electron in wood. What then? So that means we are generalizing matter to something that is universal. And that guy is permanent. I mean, there is nothing that is impermanent about it. Yeah? That notion is not something that is impermanent. Yeah? Well, that is not strictly speaking true, because these particles have also come into being as a consequence of something deeper, something further. But let's not get into that for now. But we can push our enquiry to a point where we realize that individual particles that constitute the human body have a certain sense of universality about them. Yeah? Fine. Why can't we do the same thing about our subjective consciousness? Is it dependent on our mental state? Well, no. I am happy at some point of time, I am sad at a certain point of time. My body has kept changing throughout my life. It's a fact that in 7 years, essentially all the cells of your body, perhaps except neurons, change. But then what is it that gives it this sense of unity? I still think of, okay, so this person who was, well, maybe 20 years back or 30 years back or 40 years back, somebody who was young is now older and hair has grown grey. But what is it that gives you this unity of experience? Within science, this question is now coming up as what is called the hard problem of consciousness. What is it that lends this vividness to our subjective experience? What does it mean for me to feel that I am this being? And here, the enquiry is really into that. What is it about our experience that lends reality to everything? What is it about our experience that is permanent? And if we, without analyzing, so this particular faculty of analysis, discrimination, is called viveka in Sanskrit. If we do not perform this analysis and immediately identify ourselves with the body, then when the body suffers, we will suffer. Because we are identifying ourselves with something that is impermanent. And then we try to grant permanence to it. What is it again? We do not bother to ask ourselves at that point, what is it in our experience that is granting permanence to my life, to even this body in a certain sense? It changes so slowly that we do not perceive it. So let's proceed. And the answer, so this first tentative answer is given, I mean, Vivekananda quotes this here. It's an Upanishad called the Kathopanishad. One of the most poetical of the Upanishads, the Kathopanishad, begins with the enquiry. When a man dies, there is a dispute. One party declares that he has gone forever. The other insists that he is still living. Which is true? Various answers have been given. The whole sphere of metaphysics, philosophy and religion is really filled with various answers to this question. At the same time, attempts have been made to suppress it, to put a stop to the unrest of the mind which asks, what is beyond? What is real? Again, the same question. What is real? But so long as death remains, all these attempts at suppression will always prove to be unsuccessful. We may talk about seeing nothing beyond and keeping all our hopes and aspirations confined to the present moment, and struggle hard not to think of anything beyond the world of senses, and perhaps everything outside helps to keep us limited within its narrow bounds. The whole world may combine to prevent us from broadening out beyond the present, from broadening out beyond the present. Yet, so long as there is death, the question must come again and again. Is death the end of all these things to which we are clinging, as if they were the most real of all realities, the most substantial of all substances, and one can add, the truest of all truths? The world vanishes in a moment and is gone. Standing on the brink of a precipice beyond which is the infinite yawning chasm, every mind, however hardened, is bound to recoil and ask, is this real? The hopes of a lifetime, built up little by little with all the energies of a great mind, vanish in a second. Are they real? This question must be answered. Time never lessens its power. On the other hand, it adds strength to it. I think our time for today is up, but really I would like all of us to take an opportunity to think about this fundamental question. What exactly do we mean when we say something is real, something is true? I don't think any of us is going to come up with a decisive answer that will satisfy everybody. What is worth it is this enquiry. At least try to answer for ourselves. What is it that I regard as real? What is it that I regard as true? Trying to find an answer that will be honest to oneself. And then we can keep on. See, the thing is, typically in what we call the scriptures, or the process of analysis is by raising opposing questions. It's not by taking something for granted. So we need to apply the same test of skepticism with an aim of finding the truth to ourselves. Which means we ask questions of ourselves and try to find what exactly is true, what resists enquiry. And this resisting of enquiry cannot be tested without enquiring. So what is it that is permanent? What is it that is not finite? What is it that is true about our own experience, our own subjective reality? Leaving you with these questions for now. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram.